Welcome once again to another weekly webcast. We have 2 more weekly webcasts between now and our summer break. Our summer break will be from August the 8th until Labor Day. During these succeeding 2 weeks, including this week, we will be spending time on the Defense Authorization Bill, and then I hope to finish work up in the Finance Committee on a health care reform bill, working in a bipartisan way. The only bipartisan bill that will dealing with health care that'll be out on the Senate floor or the House of Representatives. All the other bills are very partisan and very much a government takeover of health care reform. I want to continue our work on a bill becoming law. Last week we brought the bill to the floor to tell you about the amending process. This week we assume that the amending process is over and we're ready for final passage. Final passage can be by a 1-vote margin to get a bill out of the Senate, but also there are other things that can impede passage by a simple majority vote. And one of those is a vote that we call cloture. If a bill is being filibustered, it would take a 60-vote supermajority to move that bill along to final passage, even though it requires just a majority vote to get through the United States Senate. Cloture is not something spelled out in the U.S. Constitution. It's one of those things that have developed by practice and by procedure. In fact, until 1918, there was no way of stopping a filibuster whatsoever. Starting in 1918, they decided to do it by a 2/3 vote of those that were present and voting. By 1969, they figured that was too big of a hurdle, so they reduced it down to 60 votes of the entire 100 members of the Senate. So if there's only 60 people present, it still takes 60 votes to stop debate. Once debate is stopped, there's still 30 hours that debate can continue after cloture till you get to final passage and vote a bill up or down. Remember, the 60-vote cloture motion is to protect minority points of view in the United States Senate. Doesn't matter whether you got a Republican majority or a Senate majority, whichever political party's in the minority, or I suppose it could be a bipartisan minority, but until it gets 60 votes, you never get to final passage. Now, not every bill takes a 60-vote majority to move on, because some bills are not of controversy, where a minority is going to make sure that they get their point of view heard. But the idea of cloture is to protect the minority so that bills come out of the United States Senate are compromised and enjoy a fairly wide support. And that is the protecting of a minority. It is to bring other points of view to compromise legislation to get a broad consensus behind a piece of legislation. Not so in the House of Representatives, where, as I've said before, a Republican majority, a Democrat majority, or a bipartisan majority can move a bill along to passage by a certain time, either a certain number of days, a certain number of hours, with limits on amendments, things that do not really happen in the United States Senate, because we are a body to protect minority points of view and to keep things from, let's say, like the House of Representatives represents the transient will of a majority of the people in this country. The Constitution writers wanted the Senate to kind of let that transient majority that changes from day to day to be simmering in the United States Senate. There are other votes in the United States Senate require supermajorities. You know about the 2/3 vote that it takes to approve a treaty.
Mr. Burr,
the 3/5 vote that it takes to override a point of order if there's spending that's beyond what the budget resolution allows. These are either written in the Constitution or established by law, but the 60% majority, supermajority that it takes to stop debate on a bill is something that has been very much a process of precedent and not written into the laws or the Constitution. There's one other supermajority in the United States Senate. If you want to change the rules of the Senate, it would take a 2/3 vote. In other words, in 1918, when they first established the 2/3 vote to stop debate, it took 2/3 vote of the Senate to do that. In 1969, when they changed from 2/3 vote cloture to a 60 vote supermajority for cloture, that took a 2/3 vote as well. So it's not very easy to change in the United States Senate. Next week we'll take you to how the conference committee works, because once a bill passes the United States Senate, it goes to the House. If the House doesn't accept it the way the Senate passed it, most often there's a conference committee of a few members of the House, a few members of the Senate sit down to iron out the differences before it can finally be passed again by the House and Senate and sent to the President.